My name is Devin Meucci. This is my 1969 Dodge Charger. It was my dream to own one of these growing up, and I finally got to buy mine my senior year in high school in 1992. I enjoyed this and raced it for a lot of years. The story gets interesting in 2005 when this car was stolen from an underground parking garage where I lived at the time in downtown Seattle. The car was gone for 4 long weeks, and then I received a phone call one night from the Washington State Patrol. The car had been recovered after a police chase down in Federal Way. About 1:30 in the morning one night, as my buddy and I headed down to get this car back. It was surreal to see the car, and of course, unfortunately, it had been damaged. The car was stolen by a couple of meth heads. It was used and linked to several robberies during those 4 weeks, and it was full of stolen property when it was recovered. Fast forward to getting the car back and making a tough decision on what to do at that time. I'd been wanting and preparing to rebuild this car someday. What better time to do it than now? So I committed to what we call Project Mayhem, a complete rebuild of this car, which took me on a path I could have never imagined. I'll never forget the night I got the call that the car had been recovered. I was hanging out with a buddy. It was about midnight when I get this random call from the Washington State Patrol. And of course, when they told me the car had been recovered and had been in a chase, I couldn't believe it. My mind was racing. I was very excited. I was going to get my car back, but they let me know over the phone that there had been quite a bit of damage as well. So I had this anticipation, like, this was my car I'd put so much love and energy into. You know, what was it going to look like? And I'll never forget, they roll up a big garage door at the impound lot, and there sat my car. I mean, I hadn't seen it for a month. And it was pretty beat up. To be honest with you, I was very discouraged. I mean, the quarter panel was smashed in. The factory interior, which had been quite pristine, was shredded, and there's just stuff everywhere, right? These guys had used it on some crimes. God knows what had happened to it. I remember when I went to sit in the car the first time, like, I was afraid there could be like heroin needles in the seat cushions or something. I mean, you don't know where this car has been. All the more reason that when I get it back, I'm motivated to completely strip it and rebuild it. But that night, I got to meet Trooper Mike Cheek. He was the one that had recovered the car. Turns out he's a Charger fan. He catches up to it, decides to run the plate to see whether it's a 68 or a 69. Well, sure enough, the car comes up stolen. From what I understand, he flipped on the lights. The car immediately punched it, and in true muscle car fashion, started pulling away from his Crown Vic. But ultimately, the car landed in a muddy lot right outside of a wrecking yard. Now I've got the car back, and I have to make a decision. I guess if I want to keep it, I'm going to have to rebuild this thing. Now, to what level is the question? What's my budget? What do I want the end product to be? And I guess I can say that evolved slowly. I knew I wanted to keep this car on the road. It was part of me, part of who I was. So I went and met a friend of my brother's by the name of Chris Odom, who owned Extreme Metal and Paint in Anacortes. Chris, you know, gave me some options. We discussed pricing and kind of started opening my eyes. And from there, everything exploded. Chris introduced me to a local designer named Jason Rushforth out of Tacoma. I met with him. We started discussing some of these paint schemes, wheels, stance, you know, the overall look that we wanted to achieve. And that's when the details started setting in. I mean, hundreds of decisions, it felt like, every day to try to get the car in the direction we wanted to take it. The rebuild process that ensued was something I could have never imagined. First of all, it was surreal to see the car stripped down to a bare shell. I mean, you're looking at this thing, it barely resembles a car anymore, and you're thinking, man, this car's never going to run again. What did I get myself into? But you have faith in your build team, and it's fun to slowly see the project evolve. And you know, speaking of build team, to me that's what it became about. These guys at the shop that were working so hard and dedicating their time to this became good friends of mine in the process, working together so intensely, communicating, and that's what achieved the success ultimately, was high levels of communication and all the decisions to make this car what it is today. As the build progressed, we started to realize that there was potential for something very special. We didn't quite know it at the time, but with the careful design work of Jason Rushforth, with the execution of Chris Odom and his build team, you could see this car transform into something beautiful, to the point where you start to realize, wow, this car might be in a magazine someday, or be at high-level national shows. There's an industry show each year in Las Vegas that is the mecca for custom car builders. It's called the SEMA show. And as the car evolved, it became apparent we might be able to have the car appear at SEMA 2006. As our sponsorships developed, Chrysler made a commitment to us to provide free parts for the build, as well as potentially save a slot for us in the SEMA show. As that commitment grew, so did the pressure to get this car done and get it done on time. Ultimately, Chrysler sent a truck to our build shop in Anacortes to pick the car up and deliver it to Las Vegas. Having your car featured at the SEMA show is a lifetime achievement. And displaying it center stage in the Chrysler booth was unimaginable. Being one of the best booths at SEMA, it got a lot of attention, and that started to open more doors. After all the hard work and notoriety, the best part was getting the car back home and being able to enjoy it. Going to local car shows, cruises, drag racing, autocrossing, all with friends and family. It made the build meaningful. That's what it was all about. That's what the car was built for. Ultimately, I have many people to thank for this achievement. First of all, the love and support of my father, the lifelong inspiration of my brother Brendan, and the hard work and dedication of the build team. Chris Odom, who pretty much built the car from the ground up, Jason Rushforth, the designer, who consulted us on so many fine details, the interior guy, Scott Stratton, and my engine builder, Don Gould. These are the friendships and the memories that make the car so meaningful to me and ultimately become its legacy.